The story details the interplay between myths and engineering principles, highlighting that the commonplace can be as captivating as epic narratives. The ancient world is not merely a collection of artifacts, but a challenging puzzle with numerous unsolved components. Many parts of this puzzle are still missing. A key finding: ancient Babylonian civilization utilized a base 60 number system. This is the origin of the 60 minutes in an hour and the 360 degrees in a circle. Crucially, their mathematical practices included fractions derived from divisions by 3, 4, 5, and other integers, owing to the high divisibility of 60. Clay tablets from the 3rd millennium BCE reveal tables of squares and cubes. Therefore, concurrently with the initial construction of the pyramids, complex mathematical problems similar to those found in a 7th grade syllabus were being solved in Mesopotamia. Fact number 2. Ancient Roman public restrooms were not simply for hygiene. They were a significant aspect of Roman urban culture. The design included stone benches with cutout seating, a drainage system, and a sponge on a stick, a functional and efficient system. More significantly, these facilities were used socially. People gathered there to conduct business, engage in debates, and share news and gossip. They served a similar purpose to a modern cafe, albeit without the coffee. Archaeological discoveries have unearthed many such sites, spanning locations from Ephesus to Ostia. Inscriptions have also been found, including, "He who writes here, let him know his hands will become shorter." This could be seen as an early version of the warning, "Do not write on walls." The third point. The palace at Knossos, the Minoan civilization's capital, boasted over 300 rooms, along with staircases, a drainage system, and even ventilation. This predates our era by 1,500 years. One interpretation of the Minotaur labyrinth myth places its origin here, not because of a belief in the creature, but simply because the palace's intricate design made it exceptionally easy to become lost. Arthur Evans, the archaeologist who uncovered it in the early 20th century, initially assumed it was a royal vacation residence. He subsequently concluded that he had discovered a city within a city. Fourth fact: ancient Egyptians employed cosmetics not merely for aesthetic reasons. Black eye makeup, composed of lead compounds, functioned as an antiseptic in moderate amounts, preventing infections. Additionally, under the strong sun, it diminished glare and lessened eye irritation. Studies by the Louvre and Sorbonne revealed that these applications stimulated the skin's immune response. Thus, ancient fashion was a form of rudimentary street pharmacology, advanced for a period 3,000 years before our time. ChatGPT made this observation. Fact number 5. Cleopatra's language was not Egyptian, but Koine Greek, a simplified version of Greek widespread in the Hellenistic world. She belonged to the Ptolemaic dynasty, Macedonians who arrived in Egypt after Alexander the Great's conquest. For almost 3 centuries, her ancestors ruled the country without making an effort to learn the local language. Cleopatra was an exception. Plutarch states she knew several languages, including Egyptian. This wasn't just a display of respect for her subjects, it was a political move. The focus was on maintaining power, not linguistic passion. Fact number 6. Assyrian art frequently included frightening details. When King Ashurbanipal ordered the creation of artwork showing his victories, the artists used bold colors to depict the bodies of the vanquished, heaps of spoils of war, and prisoners with missing limbs. Interestingly, Ashurbanipal was possibly the most intellectual of all conquerors. He compiled a massive library for his era, containing more than 30,000 clay tablets. This collection included the Epic of Gilgamesh, medical texts, astronomical observations, and letters. These tablets are currently located in the British Museum, and a substantial number remain undeciphered. Point 7. In 2nd century BCE China, under the Han Dynasty, the functionality of a seismograph was already known. The instrument was a bronze vase decorated with dragons and encircled by bronze toads. A pendulum was placed within. Seismic activity would displace the pendulum, causing a ball to drop from a dragon's mouth into a toad's mouth, thereby indicating the earthquake's direction. This is attributed to the scholar Zhang Heng. Despite uncertainties about the precise construction, the principle's functionality is acknowledged by archaeologists and engineers. This means the idea preceded Richter by 18 centuries. Fact number 8. Greek sculptures were originally painted in bright colors. The concept of the classic white marble statue is a later misinterpretation. In ancient Greece, Athena's eyes were painted, Apollo's lips were colored, and hoplite shields were decorated with paint. Mineral pigments were used, and a layer of wax was applied afterwards. Why did the paint disappear? Exposure to sun and rain caused the paint to deteriorate, leaving only dust by the 19th century during archaeological digs. Only infrared imaging and microscopy revealed the truth. Antiquity was colorful. Later, a different image was created, statues representing silent dignity. But originally, they were brightly colored and expressive. Fact number 9. A complex sanitation system existed in ancient India as far back as the 3rd millennium before the Common Era. In the cities of the Indus Valley civilization, Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa, for example, sewer pipes removed wastewater from homes. Almost every residence had its own bathroom, with water delivered through channels. Streets were brick-paved and sloped for efficient rainwater runoff. Even in Rome, a millennium and a half later, household sanitation wasn't as prevalent. Indian engineering of that era surpassed both its contemporaries and many future civilizations. The 10th point. Spartan society did not engage in the construction of defensive walls. As Plutarch noted, they held the belief that their soldiers constituted the city's most formidable defense. This was not a mere rhetorical flourish. For centuries, Sparta existed without fortifications, deterring any potential aggressors. The foundation of their societal structure lay not in architecture, but in the rigorous training of their youth. Beginning at the age of 7, boys were enrolled in the agoge, a demanding system of education prioritizing endurance, discipline, and taciturnity. Overcoming an army whose soldiers consumed a simple black broth and slept on reed bedding presented a significant challenge. The 11th point. Ancient Alexandria featured a remarkable invention, the vendilium, a temple door that self-opened upon a priest placing a sacrifice on the altar. This represented an early example of an automaton. Its creator, Hero of Alexandria, utilized steam pressure and a lever system. Fire's heat expanded air in a hidden container, generating the pressure to drive the mechanism. Temple attendees attributed the door's opening to divine intervention. The actual cause, however, was the operation of physical laws. Hero detailed many such devices, including a precursor to the steam turbine. Fact number 12. Phoenician innovation extended beyond the alphabet to encompass the purple dye industry. The source of this dye was the murex sea snail, prevalent in the Mediterranean. Thousands of these snails were processed to yield a mere few grams of dye. The resulting color was remarkably durable and sophisticated, varying from a deep burgundy to a rich dark purple. This color became a potent symbol of power and wealth, especially within Persian and Roman societies. Its value rivaled that of gold, and in the Byzantine Empire, only the emperor was permitted to wear purple. Extensive shell middens unearthed in Tyre attest to the centuries-long operation of this industry, leaving an indelible mark on the history of global fashion. Number 13. Among the Sumerians, there were professional scribes trained through specialized curricula in schools known as edubas. These schools were in operation during the 3rd millennium BC. Their educational materials encompassed synonym lists, proverbs, and exercises in mathematics and writing. Some preserved clay tablets contain examples of school dialogues. The scribe failed to complete his work. The teacher punished him with a stick. The father gave the teacher a present, and he became more lenient. This wasn't an anecdote, but a true account. Even at that time, complaints about teachers and compromises between students, parents, and instructors were part of the school environment. Item 14. In Egypt, during the Middle Kingdom, 1,000 years before the Common Era, the first contracts for grain supply came into existence. These contracts, recorded on papyrus, included the names of the involved parties, the quantities of grain, the delivery schedules, and even clauses covering unforeseen circumstances, such as floods or raids by nomadic tribes. At the Temple of Amun at Karnak, specialized officials were responsible for the storage and allocation of the harvested grain. One such document remains. Supplier Sinuhe committed to delivering a specific amount of barley within 3 lunar months, failing which he forfeited his land. This demonstrates the early intertwining of bureaucracy and agricultural processes. Point 15. Ancient Greece is known for its circular theaters with exceptional acoustics that continue to fascinate modern engineers. In Epidaurus, for example, a coin dropped on stage can be heard from the highest seats. The design, including the seating angle and arena shape, was carefully considered. The stone acted as a natural low-frequency filter, allowing the actor's voice to project upwards without loss of volume. No microphones were used, only mathematical principles and limestone. Modern acoustic specialists confirm that achieving a similar effect without amplification is nearly impossible. 16th point. Persepolis, the capital of the Achaemenid Empire, yielded clay tablets detailing worker compensation. These records reveal that women earned less than their male counterparts, but enjoyed paid maternity leave and received child support in the form of grain, oil, and wine. Some women occupied leadership roles. Written in Elamite and dating to the 5th century BCE, these are not legal statutes but routine accounting documents. This implies that social accounting existed well before Roman decrees and declarations. The 17th point. Pythagoras was more than just a mathematician. He led a religious community known for its severe discipline. His followers avoided beans, convinced that they contained the souls of the dead. Potential students had to observe 5 years of silence before beginning their studies. Pythagoras himself produced no writings. Our knowledge comes entirely from his students. They credited him with almost supernatural powers. It was said he remembered past lives, controlled storms with his voice, and could leave his body. It wasn't a geometry club, it was a cult, with rules, rituals, and a teacher considered almost divine. The 18th point. Inscribed on a stone column erected by Ashoka, the Indian emperor, during the 3rd century BC, are edicts promoting tolerance, nonviolence, and animal welfare. Ashoka's rule began after a brutal war with Kalinga, causing the deaths of tens of thousands. After this conflict, he converted to Buddhism and implemented reforms. The inscriptions declare, "The sovereign considers all subjects his children," and "there should be no killing of living beings." This exemplifies an early attempt to incorporate morality into political policy. These columns, acting as a moral guidepost, were placed throughout his empire. The 19th point. Alexander the Great's army provided its soldiers with individual water filters, simple mesh filters used to clean water from rivers and marshes. This wasn't a display of concern, but a vital survival tactic. Their campaigns traversed hot, swampy terrain where intestinal diseases were deadlier than enemy weapons. Camp latrines were strictly positioned downstream. While unsanitary conditions persisted, the Macedonian army maintained surprisingly high mobility. A contributing factor was their basic yet effective hygiene practices. Fact 20. The earliest known examples of prostheses have been unearthed in Thebes, Egypt, originating from the 13th century BCE. Among these finds is an artificial big toe constructed from wood and leather. Its purpose was to attach to a sandal, facilitating normal walking. Evidence of significant wear demonstrates consistent usage. This artifact was not simply symbolic, but a practical device. Modern-day orthopedists and bioengineers have replicated this prosthesis, confirming its functionality. Walking while using the replica produces minimal limping. This suggests that ancient medical professionals not only provided treatment but also conducted experiments in the field of human biomechanics. Mesopotamian society, beginning in the 2nd millennium BCE, utilized marriage contracts. These legal documents outlined not just the division of property, but also the expected behavior of each spouse. A wife could lose part of her dowry for publicly shaming her husband. A husband was responsible for returning his wife to her father's home if he could not support the family. Certain contracts also included penalties for adultery. Cuneiform script on clay tablets, sealed with witness seals, documented these agreements. In essence, marriage functioned as a socio-economic contract with defined consequences. Fact 22. Common Egyptians seldom used the pharaoh's given name. Instead, they referred to him as Lord of the Two Lands, or simply House, Per-O, the origin of the word pharaoh. He wasn't just a person, but a living institution, a combination of earthly and divine authority. Temple inscriptions would state, "The pharaoh gave bread," even if the distribution was handled by an official. The title Per-O first appeared in the 15th century BCE. Originally designating the palace, it eventually became associated with the ruler himself. Therefore, an architectural term transformed into a royal title, and the building became a symbol of power. Number 23. Ancient Olympic athletes performed nude. This wasn't for aesthetic reasons, but followed established custom. The prevailing belief was that clothing interfered with the body's ability to demonstrate its perfection. The word gymnasium derives from the Greek gymnos, meaning naked. Before competition, athletes would apply oil and then powder to prevent slipping. Winners received olive branch wreaths and lifetime support from their city-state. Losers received virtually nothing. Some, from shame, did not return home. The Olympics were not merely games, but a significant test of social standing. The 24th point. The Celts did not have a writing system, but they had professional memory experts, the Druids. Their training lasted for many years, and they memorized hundreds of poems, laws, and rituals. Caesar noted that a Druid's education could take up to 20 years. All knowledge transmission was oral. Written records were seen as a violation of sacred traditions. Some information was passed down through song, with specific rhythms and melodies to maintain accuracy. Therefore, the collective memory of the Celts relied on people's memories, not libraries. Oral culture was as effective as written culture, just different in its approach. Number 25. In Uruk, one of the world's first cities, over 50,000 people resided in the 3rd millennium before the Common Era. By way of comparison, Athens during the era of Socrates had a population of roughly 30,000. Uruk boasted streets, temples, government buildings, a sanitation system, and a reliable food supply. The prevailing historical consensus points to Uruk as the birthplace of writing, cuneiform on clay. The city was zoned into districts with distinct functions: religious, craft-based, and commercial. Citizens paid taxes in grain, and all economic activity was overseen by scribes. Uruk functioned as a megacity long before the term existed. Number 26. Before the Inca, South American civilizations built roads through the Andes without wheels. The Wari culture is a case in point. They built paved paths, suspension bridges of grasses, stone steps, and direction markers. They were familiar with wheels. Archaeologists have discovered wheeled toys, but these were impractical in the mountains. Instead of wheeled vehicles, they used llamas to carry goods along narrow trails. Thus, their transport revolution was achieved not through technological invention, but through adaptation to the environment. Not what to invent, but what is not needed. This demonstrates remarkable logistical ingenuity, masked by apparent simplicity. Number 27. A board game, dating back around 3,500 years, was found on the island of Crete by archaeologists. It's referred to as the Knossos game. The game consists of a wooden board embellished with gold, ivory, and faience inlays. The board is sectioned into squares with adjacent compartments for the game pieces. The precise rules remain undetermined, but it's speculated to have resembled backgammon or similar games involving piece movement, such as the Royal Game of Ur. It is plausible that priests also played this game. In conclusion, even in an age of palaces, destruction, and earthquakes, people still made time for leisure activities and created a luxurious experience for them. Fact 28. A military intelligence service existed within the Hittite Empire, a powerful kingdom of the 2nd millennium BC. Historical records refer to the ears of the king, spies who relayed information regarding enemy movements, conditions in dependent territories, and even the prevailing mood in the capital city. Some messages were encrypted. A tablet discovered in Hattusa specifies that the message is to be read only by one who knows the sign of the sun. The Hittites utilized intelligence not only for military campaigns, but also in diplomatic endeavors. Prior to sending gifts to Egypt, they investigated the situation in Thebes. Espionage predates diplomacy. Fact 29. Ancient Mayan astronomers developed a calendar system of impressive accuracy even by the standards of 21st century astronomy. Their long count began on a mythical date of creation, August 11th, 3,114 years before the Common Era, using the Gregorian calendar. Their calculation of the solar year was extremely precise, with an error of less than 2 minutes, and they understood the cycles of the moon, Venus, and eclipses. They achieved this without telescopes, using only observation and mathematical methods. They aligned temples with the stars, and rulers scheduled ceremonies to coincide with specific celestial events. This was not superstition, but advanced temporal engineering. Number 30. The Hittite Empire, situated within the borders of present-day Turkey, possessed a highly developed legal framework for the protection of trees. One legal text specifies, the felling of a grapevine incurred a silver fine. Tree damage mandated the planting of a replacement. This wasn't based on environmental concerns, but rather economic practicality. Trees offered food, shade, and vital support for vineyards. The system was carefully structured. The number of replacement trees, the determination of responsibility, and the calculation of compensation were all precisely outlined. Consequently, ancient civilizations recognized that sustainability was not just an idea, but an active practice. The 31st fact. In Peru, archaeologists unearthed puzzling artifacts, quipu, which are systems of knotted strings. These functioned as a counting system and possibly a writing system. The Inca civilization utilized them, but the concept is older. Each color, knot type, and placement held encoded information. Preserved quipu detail grain storage, tax records, and military actions. Certain contemporary linguists suggest that intricate quipu may have contained linguistic information, but this remains unproven. Unlike alphabetic systems, this is a tactile, not visual recording method. These are touchable archives, a code hidden within the ropes. In China, under the Tang dynasty, a system of civil service examinations was already in operation. Appointment to office depended on merit, not influence. Aspirants were rigorously tested in poetry, philosophy, and calligraphy. Examinations took place in individual compartments, with candidates permitted only food and writing supplies. The examinations could last up to 3 days. Successful candidates were assigned posts in the capital. Others were assigned to provincial positions. Advancement was based on talent and memory, not birthright. This system endured for over 1,000 years and served as a model for modern meritocratic selection processes. Number 33. The Varna necropolis in modern Bulgaria yielded the oldest worked gold ever discovered. These artifacts date back more than 6.5 millennia. The collection includes meticulously crafted bracelets, diadems, belt ornaments, and vessels. Nearly 3,000 items were found across various graves. Remarkably, one grave contained no skeletal remains, only carefully placed gold, as if a person had been present but subsequently disappeared. Experts believe this represents a symbolic burial, indicating high status. This suggests that power associated with metal preceded the first monarchies. The 34th fact. Pre-Roman Italy was home to the Etruscans, a people whose culture remains somewhat mysterious. Among their artifacts were talking mirrors, bronze discs decorated with engraved myths, scenes of everyday life, and puzzling inscriptions in their native language. Many of these mirrors show women not as secondary to men, but as active participants in society, arguing, making predictions, acting as judges. This has led some researchers to suggest that Etruscan women enjoyed greater rights and freedoms than their Greek or Roman contemporaries. Evidence of their participation in feasts, household management, and their presence in epitaphs supports this view. The mirrors, therefore, reflect not only physical appearance, but also a social role, one that has remained largely unseen and forgotten. Fact number 35. The construction of canals in Mesopotamia utilized floating level indicators, instruments designed to ensure even water distribution. These consisted of wooden containers equipped with floats and calibrated markings, enabling workers to maintain a consistent water flow and prevent flooding. Rather than relying on static clay diagrams, a mobile device was employed, moved along the canal's length. Archaeological findings, including texts dating back to the reign of King Hammurabi, corroborate the existence of these tools. Consequently, Mesopotamian hydraulic engineering transcended simple engineering, representing a precise science with instruments on par with those of antiquity. The 36th point. Linear A, a writing system, was utilized on Crete during the Bronze Age. Its meaning remains a mystery. Artifacts inscribed with these symbols have been unearthed in Knossos, Phaistos, and other Minoan sites. The script demonstrates organization. Repeated sequences, numbers, and tables are evident. It's speculated that it functioned as a method of inventory accounting. The language, however, is unknown. Linear B, later adopted by the Mycenaeans, has been translated as Ancient Greek. Linear A, conversely, continues to baffle researchers. It is not merely a collection of markings. It is the silent voice of a lost culture. Fact number 37. The ancient Roman army used portable miniature catapults called scorpions. These were machines that fired arrows up to a meter long with enough force to penetrate shields and armor. The construction combined wood, bronze, and twisted fibers that served as springs. A crew could manage up to 4 scorpions, quickly changing their positions. On the battlefield, they offered a significant advantage before hand-to-hand combat began. This means a legion was not just a column of soldiers with pila, but a complex military system including artillery, sappers, and long-range precision. Fact 38. Early references to what we might call eyeglasses, more precisely magnifying lenses, are documented in Assyrian texts. A quartz lens with focusing properties was found in Ashurbanipal's library. Its function could have been as a simple magnifier or as a burning glass. Comparable lenses have been excavated from Mycenaean burial sites and on Cyprus. The Nimrud lens, dating back approximately 3,000 years, is particularly noteworthy. It has been suggested that this lens was a component of a more complex optical device, possibly a telescope. Yet conclusive evidence for this remains absent. Nonetheless, the point is clear. Ancient cultures did not merely see, they actively sought to improve their vision. 39th point. The Aztec judicial system included cassation and appeal processes. Judges underwent training at palace schools and were prohibited from accepting gifts. Violation resulted in property confiscation. Preserved legal codes detail cases from family disputes to theft. False accusations faced the same punishment as the crimes themselves. The highest court was under the Tenochtitlan ruler, its decisions unappealable. Aztec jurisprudence was a formalized branch of government, not a ritual, operating according to a schedule.
В регионе Хакасия археологи нашли стонные плейты с карвистыми маппами, симплифицированными депикшенами area, рек и сеттлементов. Date Dea believed to the Bronze Age. A particularly notable example is a plate from the Sundukis Pass, which integrates a map with a solar calendar. Some lines precisely mirror the actual geography, while others mark the sun's position at the solstices. The scholarly consensus is that these plates functioned as both navigational aids and objects of religious significance. This suggests a synthesis of spatial awareness and a sense of time, embodied in stone.
41st fact. The practice of medicine in ancient Babylon was governed by law, encompassing both compensation and legal liability for physicians. Hammurabi's code contained a provision. If a physician employing a bronze knife operated on a free person and that person died, the physician's hand would be severed. Conversely, a successful operation and the patient's recovery warranted significant payment to the physician, potentially reaching 10 shekels of silver. The penalties and remuneration were less severe for slaves. This contractual arrangement redefined medicine, not as a divine gift, but as a profession with established fees, inherent risks, and a defined social status. This served as a rudimentary form of medical licensing, stringent yet organized. 42nd fact. The people of ancient Nubia, situated south of Egypt, engaged in cranial surgery, trepanation, more than 1,000 years before our time. Excavations in Sudan have yielded skulls bearing smooth, circular perforations, with a significant number exhibiting signs of healing. This implies a considerable survival rate amongst the patients. The tools employed were basic, flint and bronze knives, and potentially a bow drill. The intent behind these procedures remains a matter of debate. Some scholars suggest a medical purpose, treating injuries, while others posit a ritualistic explanation. The accuracy of the surgical work, however, is evident. In conclusion, anatomical knowledge was acquired through practical application, not theoretical texts. Number 43. The city of Teotihuacan in central Mexico existed thousands of years before the Aztec civilization. It was characterized by its straight streets, specialized districts for artisans and foreigners. It represented the first megacity in the Americas with a planned, zoned layout. The Avenue of the Dead served as the main thoroughfare, lined with temples, residential buildings, and markets. Archaeological evidence indicates the presence of numerous ethnic groups, including the Maya. This multicultural society suggests a thriving trade network, sophisticated diplomacy, and advanced urban planning. The identities of Teotihuacan's rulers remain unknown. Yet, at its peak, its population reached 200,000, comparable to that of Imperial Rome. Fact 44. The Greeks were not merely observers of the stars, they were also inventors of instruments for celestial observation. The Antikythera mechanism stands out, a bronze artifact recovered from the ocean depths in the early 20th century. This functioned as an analog calculating machine. Its many gears, rotating at precise speeds, allowed prediction of solar and lunar eclipses, lunar phases, and even Olympic Games dates. Its intricacy is comparable to that of 17th century clocks, despite being created at least a millennium earlier. Lost to history, it is regarded as antiquity's first computer. In Lagash, a Sumerian city, roughly 24 centuries BCE, the term reform appeared for the first time in historical records. Ur-Nammu, the ruler, implemented edicts restricting the arbitrary power of officials and religious figures. He eliminated charges for funerals, made it the state's responsibility to provide for widows and orphans, and banned forced labor due to debt. Inscriptions read, "He gave freedom to the people of the city," the word amargi signifying liberation. This wasn't a revolution, but a careful attempt to balance power with societal needs. The world's initial defense against corruption stemmed not from a manifesto, but from cuneiform tablets. Fact 46. In ancient Greece, a system of all-seeing judges existed, jurors selected at random in large numbers. In Athens during the 5th century before the Common Era, court sessions could include as many as 1,500 people at once.
They heard both sides of the case without lawyers and voted with bronze tokens. The tally was immediate, following the arguments, and the verdict was implemented instantly. The state provided payment to the jurors, ensuring participation from even the poorest citizens. This structure limited corruption, too many individuals to bribe effectively. Greek justice was a public display, loud, transparent, and swift.
47th point. In Sparta, women enjoyed the right to land ownership, inheritance, and even physical training in gymnasiums. This differed significantly from Athens, where women were barred from assemblies and lived secluded lives. Spartan girls engaged in sports, pursued education, and participated actively in public life. The rationale was clear. A strong mother fosters a strong warrior. Historical sources record a Spartan mother's words to her son as she gave him his shield, "With it or on it." This wasn't a perfect equality, but within the context of a warrior society, women fulfilled a crucial role. Their status stemmed not from cultural norms, but from practical necessity, thus ensuring its stability.
Number 48. Easter Island is famous for its massive moai statues, carved from stone. Interestingly, it appears these colossal figures were transported in a vertical position. Research indicates that the statues could be moved by a rocking motion, using ropes and a team of workers to shift them from side to side. Local myths claim the statues walked themselves. This walking-like technique allowed for the movement of these enormous statues without the use of wheels or animals. Evidence of vertical friction can be found on the bases of some moai. The solution, then, wasn't advanced technology, but rather careful balance and perseverance, almost a dance of stone.
Houses of life in Babylon functioned as combined medical clinics and training schools. Clay tablets detail a vast array of symptoms, diagnoses, and treatments, encompassing conditions ranging from broken bones to depression. Diseases were classified as either visible or invisible, and medical practice involved collaboration between physicians and priests, utilizing both physical interventions and magical spells. However, the core of the system was its extensive archives. Physicians were expected to master medical texts, meticulously document their findings, and pass this knowledge on to their pupils. This constituted not merely practical training, but a formal educational curriculum. Babylonian medicine, therefore, developed through observation and the accumulation of knowledge, rather than solely through religious ritual, centuries before the time of Hippocrates. Fact 50. Scandinavian peoples of the Viking Age maintained hidden metallurgical production sites within boglands. Archaeological discoveries reveal furnaces used in the smelting of iron from bog ore. These locations were kept secret from adversaries to protect the production of swords and axes. The process involved a complex series of steps: ore roasting, sintering within clay crucibles, and subsequent slag separation. The resulting iron served in the manufacture of weapons, nails, and ship components. While seasonal, production was well organized. Workers resided nearby, ensuring access to timber and providing site defense. This demonstrates that even in the Dark Ages, economic activity necessitated logistical management and secrecy. 51st fact. Ancient China, specifically during the Shang dynasty, employed divination bones, ox scapula, and turtle shells. Questions were etched onto these bones, directed towards spiritual entities. Subsequent to burning the bone, interpretations were derived from the resulting fractures. The queries were unambiguous. Is an attack advisable for tomorrow? Will the emperor's consort bear a male heir? Will the deities favor the harvest? These bones constitute the earliest known evidence of Chinese writing. Their function extended beyond mere divination, encompassing aspects of daily bureaucratic processes, existing at the intersection of the mundane and the sacred. Following their use, these bones were archived and eventually buried, symbolizing the completion and sealing of a communication with the celestial realm. Item 52. Roman society employed specialized maps charting their road networks, itineraria. These maps indicated routes and distances between staging posts and points of reference. The most well-known example is the Peutinger table, a sizable scroll displaying the entire Roman road system, stretching from Britain to India. Roads are represented linearly, similar to a metro map, but with actual city names, postal stations, and accommodations. These maps serve travelers, administrators, and military personnel. In conclusion, Rome was not simply a geographical area. It was a logistical system where movement was controlled by a planned rather than an impromptu approach. Fact 53. The Xiongnu, nomadic predecessors of the Huns, maintained a firmly established social hierarchy, recorded in official writings. Chinese historical texts detail a well-defined court protocol, with each individual occupying a predetermined position, from the Shan Yu, supreme leader, down to those tending the herds. The ranking of leaders dictated their seating arrangements, the distribution of spoils, and the manner of punishment for transgressions. Significantly, diplomatic communications from the Shan Yu to Chinese emperors precisely mirrored the style of the Celestial Empire, including its titular conventions. This represented steppe diplomacy, severe yet systematic, characterized by ritual and a nuanced grasp of ceremonial practices. Fact 54. Ancient Egyptian mummification was a hereditary profession, with the embalming process sometimes extending to 70 days. The procedure included brain removal through the nose using metal hooks, rinsing the body cavities with palm wine, desiccation using natron, and wrapping the body in hundreds of meters of cloth. It's noteworthy that each step was accompanied by incantations. Do not harm the heart, grant the organ passage to the afterlife. This was not merely a medical practice, but a sacred ritual blending precision with magic. Even amulet placement adhered to a strict pattern, functioning as a code for the transition to the next life. 55. Ancient Greece utilized coins not merely as a medium of exchange, but also as instruments of ideological dissemination. After their triumph at the Battle of Salamis, the Athenians released a series of coins bearing the image of a ship and an owl, symbolic of maritime dominance and wisdom. The distribution of these coins extended across the Mediterranean. Their acceptance even reached as far as Persia. Therefore, the currency functioned as a city's calling card, effectively communicating its high standing. The Greeks understood that ideology could be propagated not only through temples and theaters, but also through commonplace objects, especially those possessing economic value. Fact 56. During the reign of Darius the Great in Persia, a sophisticated state postal system known as the Angaria was in operation. This system predated modern courier services. Relay stations were established at intervals of 20 to 30 kilometers across the empire, allowing couriers to exchange horses and continue their journeys. Herodotus recorded, "Neither snow, nor rain, nor heat, nor gloom of night stays these couriers." This quote subsequently appeared on a United States post office building. Letters were carried in leather containers, and the routes were kept secret. This efficient network enabled Darius to effectively govern his empire, extending from India to Egypt. The empire's power was based not only on military strength, but also on rapid communication. Paragraph 57. In the ancient Armenian kingdom of Urartu, there existed a sophisticated centralized irrigation system rivaling the Roman system in its scope. A prime example is the Menwa Canal, a remarkable feat of engineering completed in the 8th century BCE. This canal extended for approximately 80 kilometers, originating from mountain springs and leading to the capital city, Tushpa, modern-day Van Kirky. Its construction involved the use of stone aqueducts, tunnels, and carefully graded slopes. Even today, a section of this canal remains functional, providing water to the Armenian village of Oranjin, a testament to its enduring design. The engineering prowess of Urartu was purely functional, crucial for the sustenance of its urban centers. Item 58. In Mohenjo-Daro, a prominent center within the Indus Valley civilization, a great bath existed, complete with a drainage system and facing, anticipating Roman baths by a millennium. This building contained a pool roughly 7 by 12 meters, featuring a waterproof brick base and surrounding steps. Water flowed in through designated channels, and wastewater was channeled into a separate outlet. The function of this structure is a matter of ongoing academic discussion. Was it a religious site or a public area for cleansing? Nevertheless, the level of sanitation and understanding of bodily hygiene within this civilization was remarkably advanced, a standard not reached in Europe until the late Middle Ages. Item 59. Ancient Alexandria possessed a mechanism for dispensing holy water, triggered by the insertion of a coin. This invention was the work of Hero of Alexandria during the 1st century BCE. Internally, a lever system regulated a valve. The coin's weight activated the water flow, then reset itself. This represented the world's first automatic vending machine, dispensing not soft drinks, but consecrated liquid. Its placement was at temple entrances, where pilgrims wished to avoid waiting for a priest. Hero also engineered various other automated contraptions: theater puppets, mechanical birds capable of singing, and steam-powered doors. The field of engineering was evolving into a captivating display. The 60th fact. Ancient Iberians on the Iberian Peninsula had an alphabet that is still largely undeciphered. Its use started in the 6th century BCE. It combined features of Phoenician and Greek writing systems, but also developed its own unique characteristics. Some signs represented syllables, others individual sounds. Inscriptions were carved into stones, pottery, and bronze plates. These inscriptions are found from Andalusia to Catalonia. Some texts are quite long, up to 100 words, but none have been completely deciphered. This writing system is, as it were, on the verge of comprehension. We see its form, but not its meaning. Beyond it lies the forgotten language of a people with no surviving descendants. Fact number 61. In ancient Rome, the practice of damnatio memoriae, or condemnation of memory, was employed. The Senate possessed the power to order the elimination of a person's name from all records, the destruction of their statues, and the alteration or destruction of their portraits. This resulted in the effective erasure of emperors who had failed in their power struggles: Caligula, Commodus, and Domitian. In some instances, the head of a bust would be removed and replaced, such as transforming a bust of Nero into one of Vespasian. This could be considered a form of political image manipulation, the destruction of a biography through the modification of stone imagery. Yet, evidence of this manipulation often remained: incomplete inscriptions, chisel marks, and a foreign face on an old body. Number 62. The Assyrians practiced the inscription of curses on clay bricks, subsequently placed within the foundations of their constructions. The name of the commissioning party, usually a ruler, was included, accompanied by threats directed towards anyone who might damage the building or obliterate the inscription. The language used was strong. May he have no descendants. May plague strike him. May a dog devour him. These pronouncements served a dual purpose: a legal instrument and a protective talisman. Archaeologists consistently unearth these bricks in pristine condition, beneath temples, palaces, and defensive walls. Consequently, the foundation served not only as a structural element, but also as a symbol of fear. 63rd fact. On Delos, an island considered sacred by the ancient Greeks, a zone existed where birth and death were prohibited. Legend states that Apollo and Artemis were born there. To preserve its sacred nature, the authorities mandated the relocation of all burials and pregnant women off the island. This practice later extended to other holy sites. Strict oversight was maintained. Inspectors ensured adherence to the rules. This wasn't just a ritual. It was an attempt to establish a space outside the constraints of time, a place when normal biological processes didn't apply. Delos became a physical embodiment of myth enforced by law. Fact number 64. Sumerian society employed a tax system relying on seals and clay tablets for administration. Every cultivator was obliged to deliver a share of their produce, animals, or woven goods to government storehouses. Record-keeping was achieved through the use of cylindrical seals, each possessing the unique design serving as an individual identifier. These seals were impressed onto moist clay, the resulting imprint acting as a verification of authenticity. Excavated tablets display symbols representing grain, goats, and beer, all integral elements of the tax system. The Sumerian state's tax collection wasn't verbal, it was conducted through cuneiform script and the distinctive patterns of seals. The budgetary process commenced in the fields and concluded in temple storage areas. Number 65. In the Neolithic period, Saharan tribes used astronomical observatories, which existed long before Stonehenge. In southern Egypt, on the Nabta Playa Plateau, archaeologists uncovered stone circles and the line stelae over 7,000 years old. These structures indicated the summer solstice and the rising of certain stars. This was more than just observation, it was a calendar for nomadic groups connected to the rainfall. The stone guides helped determine when to move herds and where to dig wells. It was not a religious site or a burial ground, but a tool for survival, expressed through the geometry of the desert. Number 66. In antique Carthage, trade offerings existed. Miniature representations of merchandise offered to temples as expressions of appreciation. These could be ceramic shoes, bread-filled baskets modeled in clay, and clay wine barrels. Each item represented actual profits. Numerous examples are found within the temples of Tanit and Baal Hamon. These weren't sacrifices in the conventional sense, they were agreements between deities and merchants. To the Greeks, it was an offering. To the Carthaginians, it was a receipt. The temple served as a record of successful business dealings. 67th fact. In the south of Italy, archaeologists discovered bronze plates with inscriptions in Oscan, the language of the Samnite people. These Abella tablets comprise religious laws and the regulations for celebrations. The writing proceeds from right to left, utilizing an alphabet akin to the Etruscan. Certain terms are distinctive. For instance, the word for priest, medikalov, its precise meaning remains a topic of ongoing scholarly discussion. The Samnites produced a small number of written documents, but these tablets show that their culture had a codified religion separate from Rome's. In the Iron Age, their writings documented not myths, but instructions for rituals. Fact 68. The Incas had a sophisticated road system, the Chapac Ñan, or Royal Road, which connected the entire Andean region, extending from Quito to Cusco and beyond to Chile. The total length of this network was over 30,000 kilometers. The road system navigated mountain slopes, utilizing bridges, tunnels, and high mountain passes at altitudes above 4,000 meters. Along its length were strategically placed rest stops, storage facilities, signal towers, and stations for the chasquis, runners who delivered messages and goods across vast distances in a remarkably short time. Messages were transmitted via quipu, knotted cords, routes were memorized, and schedules were rigorously observed. The Inca Empire was constructed not through military might, but through the development of infrastructure and mastery of stonework. Fact 69. The ancient state of Elam, located in present-day Iran, saw the emergence of female rulers with the title Great Royal Wife as early as the 3rd millennium BCE. Their roles were not merely symbolic. Evidence from clay tablets and seals shows they actively participated in administration, conducting correspondence, overseeing temples, and managing their own properties. One such woman, Shim Puhu, left a record of instructions for the construction of a religious building. Her name is engraved on an official stone inscription alongside the king's, given equal space. This clearly indicates her status as a political figure of considerable influence. In an age where women's voices were rarely heard, hers is remarkably clear. Fact 70. In present-day Germany, near the ancient oppidum of Mainz, a bronze calendar was unearthed. This disc, featuring notches and holes, is believed to date from the 1st century BCE. It depicts the year divided into lunar months adjusted for the solar cycle. It was likely used by Druids, Celtic priests, and scholars. The calendar indicates important dates for harvesting, sacrifices, and meetings. It is not merely a timekeeping instrument, it is a schedule of life. The seemingly abstract concept of a year became a tangible object, a circle with holes, signifying tomorrow, the day of the gods.
In Harappa, a significant city within the Indus civilization, individual seals were employed, carved stone squares adorned with images of animals and pictograms. Archaeological discoveries have yielded thousands of these items, with no two being exactly alike. These seals are thought to have functioned as signatures for merchants or owners of goods. Certain seals exhibit holes, indicating potential use as amulets or tokens. Almost every seal bears a short inscription, which remains undeciphered. This system wasn't writing as we understand it, but rather a personalized code. Goods bearing this mark were protected not by a deity, but by the individual's unique symbol.
Fact number 72. A characteristic Etruscan practice involved decorating tomb walls with frescoes portraying scenes of feasts, dances, and athletic competitions. A considerable number of these tombs have been unearthed in Tarquinia, yielding a surprising contrast, celebration instead of grief. The figures depicted are shown laughing, imbibing wine, playing wind instruments, and engaging in pole vaulting. This is not a rejection of death, but rather an interpretation of it as a transition to a different yet equally lively state. In Etruscan belief, the afterlife is a continuation of earthly life, full of joy and music. This artistic expression conveys the idea that death is not darkness, but another room in the vast house of being.
The 73rd point. Before Islam, ancient Arabian society featured poetic contests held in markets and oases. The most well-known was the Ukaz contest near Mecca. Poets competed in creating qasidas, extended odes praising generosity, clan prestige, and the beauty of a loved one. Exceptional poems were written on silk with gold ink and hung on the Kaaba's walls. These hanging odes, or mu'allaqat, established the foundation of Arabic poetic style. Significantly, this served as a means of transmitting history, law, and ideology, using a memorable rhythmic form. The poet acted not simply as an ornament, but as a keeper of tribal history. 74th fact. The succession to the throne in ancient Nubia followed a matrilineal system. The throne passed not from father to son, but through the sister. A female monarch, known as a Kandake, could rule on behalf of the dynasty. Amani Shaketo is a notable example, successfully repelling a Roman invasion under Gaius Petronius during the 1st century BCE. Roman records describe her as a very strong woman, blind in one eye. Artistic depictions portray her with royal symbols, weapons, and wreaths, establishing her as a fully empowered ruler. Female rule in Nubia was not an isolated occurrence, but a well-established institution, possessing its own seal, army, and the authority to engage in warfare. Fact 75. The Phoenicians implemented not only an alphabet, but also a system of debt receipts used as a form of payment. Merchants in cities, including Tyre and Sidon, exchanged tablets bearing symbols denoting obligations, repayment schedules, and witness identities. Some of these records survive on lead plates, a safeguard against falsification. Trade routes extended thousands of kilometers from the Levant to Gibraltar, and these bills of exchange obviated the need to transport precious metals. The Phoenician writing system achieved universal acceptance, and their debt instruments prefigured abstract money. The origins of banking can be traced to a clay signature. Fact 76. During the Bronze Age on Cyprus, urban copper halls existed, storage buildings for copper ingots. These ingots were shaped like ox hides and weighed about 30 kilograms each.
They functioned as both raw material and currency. Numerous such storage facilities have been found in Nkomi and Calabasas. The ingots were marked with stamps indicating the supplier and the customer. This demonstrates that metal trade operated under contract 3,500 years ago. Production, transport, and accounting were all systematically organized. Coins were still centuries in the future, but copper already served as money in the form of oxhide-shaped ingots. Fact 77. During the Zhou dynasty in ancient China, ritual colleges existed. These schools focused on teaching proper behavior in social settings, receptions, temples, and meals, rather than military skills. The state's stability was believed to depend on the proper observance of ritual. Knowing how to bow, yield precedence, remain silent, and speak appropriately was considered crucial for national order. According to the Book of Rites, boys began their education at 3 years of age and became perfect men, capable of emotional self-regulation by the age of 30. The curriculum included music, gestures, and dress codes. Thus, Zhou culture nurtured not soldiers or officials, but individuals who fostered societal harmony. Archaeological evidence from Hallstatt culture Celtic settlements reveals extensive trade links with Greece and the East. Among the finds are wine amphorae, Greek-made pottery, and amber adornments. The burials of leaders included bronze vessels, likely Balkan imports, and textiles, possibly from the Aegean region. The discovery of silk threads in the Hochdorf princess's tomb is especially noteworthy, indicating early interactions with the Silk Road. This shows that, 5 centuries before Caesar's time, the Celts were integrated into a broad trading system involving silk and salt. The line between barbarians and civilization was thus demonstrably porous, permeable through the flow of trade. Fact 79. A dream archive existed in Nineveh, the Assyrian capital city. This archive consisted of a collection of tablets that recorded the dreams of kings and priests along with their interpretations. One particular text says, "If a person sees a house burning, there will be war. If flying, victory in the north." The compilation of these texts wasn't driven by artistic expression, but served as a crucial element of intelligence gathering and political decision-making. The priests were responsible for teaching the differentiation between meaningful and meaningless dreams, with certain dreams considered significant enough to alter the king's decisions. Therefore, a subjective experience directly influenced objective actions. Dreams served as official reports carrying weight and consequences. The 80th fact. In southern Arabia, within the Sabaean kingdom, a sophisticated system of irrigated terraces transformed mountainous terrain into productive agricultural land. Construction extended over many centuries, culminating in the Merib Dam, a structure more than 500 meters in length, featuring an intricate network of canals, sluices, and drainage works. This dam facilitated the cultivation of grapes, cereals, and dates in the desert. Each parcel of irrigated land was carefully registered, and upon any damage to the dam, the entire population participated in its restoration. Subsequently, following the dam's failure, the kingdom experienced a period of decline. In essence, water constituted not merely a life source, but also the bedrock of the political structure. Control over water resources meant control over the kingdom. Number 81. The technology of steel forging was mastered in ancient India significantly before the Industrial Revolution. Wood steel, also called Damascus steel, serves as a prominent example, having been exported to Persia and the Arab world. The process involved smelting iron with charcoal within sealed containers to achieve carbon infusion. The outcome was a metal possessing superior strength and a unique pattern. Wood swords displayed flexibility without fracturing, effortlessly slicing through other blades. Writings from the 1st century before our era already make mention of this metal. Europe would only rediscover this technology after a millennium and a half, a discovery that would elicit astonishment. Number 82. The Mayan civilization developed not only a system of hieroglyphic writing, but also a highly advanced numerical system that included the concept of zero, 800 years before the Arab numerals. Their base 20 system used a dot for 1, a horizontal line for 5, and a shell image for 0. This facilitated complex calculations, including dating, cycles, and astronomical predictions. The Dresden Codex features tables of solar and lunar eclipses accurate to the single day. Zero for the Maya was not a philosophical concept, but a practical tool for computation. This makes their mathematics not outdated, but truly contemporary.
Number 83. In ancient Rome, female collegia existed, combining aspects of both guilds and social clubs. The Collegium Mulierum Textricum, a guild of women weavers, serves as an example. It held regular meetings, collected membership fees, and even had its own altar. These organizations could arrange for burial rites, hold celebratory gatherings, and protect the interests of their members. Some collegia even had statues and temples dedicated to goddesses, such as Juno and Minerva. Denied formal political participation, women formed parallel structures with substantial autonomy. The collegium offered protection and a voice, allowing women to speak for themselves rather than only as wives or mothers.
The 84th point. Famous chess pieces were carved on the Isle of Lewis, Scotland, during the 12th century. These pieces were found centuries later, hidden beneath a layer of peat. Made from walrus tusk and whalebone, each piece has a distinct facial expression. The most memorable are the pawn pieces depicting berserkers biting shields. It is thought that these chess pieces were crafted in Norway and brought to the British Isles by traders or Vikings. They demonstrate not only cultural interaction, but also a specific worldview. A game where the rook symbolizes a fortress and the pawn represents a soldier fighting relentlessly. The board game served as a microcosm of a world where strategic thinking is as crucial as military might.
Number 85. In ancient Egypt, the role of official dream interpreter existed, a priest whose responsibility was to analyze and interpret dreams presented to him. The Dream Papyrus, a document from the reign of Ramses II, provides interpretations for hundreds of dreams. Examples include, if a person sees himself drinking beer, good, it means he will receive a blessing. If he eats a crocodile, bad, he will be devoured by debts. These interpretations were systematically categorized, ranked, and utilized in the decision-making process. This form of psychoanalysis was not individual, but state-sanctioned. Dreams were used to communicate with the afterlife, but the conclusions drawn were entirely practical and related to earthly matters, building projects, marriage decisions, etc.
Number 86. The Kingdom of Pergamon, a competitor to Alexandria, developed parchment, a thin, strong animal skin, to replace papyrus. This was a consequence of an embargo. Egypt halted papyrus shipments due to concerns about competition in the book industry. Pergamon's skilled workers mastered the process of treating animal hides, achieving a smooth and long-lasting product. This new material was more resilient and permitted writing on both sides. Parchment eventually replaced papyrus by the medieval period, and the city's name became the common term for the material. This exemplifies how a single ruler's political action can result in a technology that outlives both the cities and kingdoms of its time. Number 87. In ancient Rome, a unique position existed, the auctor funerum, the funeral director. He was more than just a gravedigger. He was responsible for the entire funeral ritual, hiring mourners, coordinating musicians, and selecting the route to the pyre. Wealthy families created elaborate performances, complete with speeches, ancestral theatrical masks, and torch-lit processions. Remarkably, these funerals provided a stage for political actions. Speeches were made, alliances were established, and wealth was flaunted. Death became a public spectacle, with the auctor funerum as the director, having one chance but a vast audience. The 88th point. Yayoi period Japan, circa 300 years before our era, saw burials containing mirrors, bronze spears, and dotaku bells placed within the earth near the deceased. These bells lacked tongues. They were silent, functioning as charms or markers of social rank. Their surfaces displayed various images: rice paddies, deer, and birds. Archaeological evidence indicates dotaku's use in agricultural rites to beseech rain or express thanks for a successful harvest. Their interment was an offering to the earth's deities. In essence, in ancient Japan, metal transcended its role as weaponry, acting as a conduit between humanity and the environment. The 89th point. In the Edion Andron cave on the island of Crete, traditionally believed to be the birthplace of Zeus, archaeologists have found bronze plates inscribed with prayers to the god, early versions of lucky notes. These plates contain requests for good health, plentiful harvests, and love. Some plates are shaped like hands, eyes, or feet, visually indicating the body part in need of healing. These ex voto offerings were buried or hung in caves. This practice built a pagan archive of hopes, each word an attempt to outwit destiny, to imprint the wish in bronze, and thereby increase the likelihood of its fulfillment. Number 90, fact. In the pre-Inca period, the Andean populations built megalithic constructions, precisely carved from resistant volcanic stone. Sacsayhuaman, a fortress situated above Cusco, is the most renowned example. Its stone blocks, some weighing up to 100 tons, are joined without any mortar. Their fit so perfect that a blade cannot fit between them. The blocks possess smooth surfaces and multifaceted corners. The techniques used in their creation remain a mystery. Stone tools alone cannot explain the level of precision achieved. It was more than just a defensive position. It was a demonstration of superior skill and power. For these artisans, stone was not a hindrance, but a material readily shaped according to geometric designs. Astrological records, precisely detailing eclipses, comets, and planetary movements, have been unearthed in Ashurbanipal's library. The records include dates, observation locations, and interpretations of the event's political implications. One entry reads, "If the moon disappears in the west, the kingdom of Elam will weaken. If a star moves backward, a messenger should be sent to Uruk." These meticulous observations spanned centuries, maintained by teams of astronomers working in shifts. Their work focused not only on celestial phenomena, but also on the relationship between heavenly occurrences and earthly political events. The records serve as a chronicle, not of the stars themselves, but of courtly intrigue observed and recorded under the celestial canopy. Fact 92. In Dramanacy, a Georgian settlement, remains of Homo erectus dated to 1.8 million years ago have been unearthed. These remains exhibit signs of care for the ill. One skeleton belonged to an individual who had lost all their teeth but continued to live for a considerable time. This implies that they received sustenance and support from others. Thus, empathy existed long before the emergence of culture and written language. This constitutes the oldest known proof of social empathy. Even without established religions, laws, or large-scale political entities, assistance was provided. Humanity is older than civilization. Fact 93. Among the ancient Hittites, oaths included severe curses, some employing imagery from the natural world. A sample text reads, "If you break your word, may the mountains melt like wax in fire. May the fields become salt, and your family like a puddle after rain." The oath-taking ceremony involved a public recitation in the presence of god statues, followed by recording on clay or bronze. These records are discovered in the Bagaskoe archive. The oath served not only as a moral commitment, but also as a legal and religious instrument, specifying deadlines, witnesses, and punishments. The words constituted not just a promise, but a pact with the universe. Fact 94. The approximately 17,000-year-old Lascaux cave paintings feature not only animals, but also figures with a repeating motif of dots and lines. The interpretation offered by some scholars is that these are early attempts at recording information, potentially linked to lunar cycles or the migratory patterns of animals. The repetitive nature of the design suggests a system of counting. If this hypothesis holds true, these would constitute some of the oldest known calendars, created by hunters who lacked writing but possessed sharp observational skills. The art serves not as ornamentation, but as a repository of knowledge. Survival strategies are encoded in the charcoal and ochre pigments.
Fact 95. An ancient human settlement has been unearthed in Siberia along the Lena River. The dwellings were built using mammoth bones. These bones were arranged in a circular pattern, with animal hides stretched across the top. A single dwelling contains more than 100 bones, including large skulls. These structures are estimated to be 20,000 years old. This suggests it wasn't a temporary shelter, but a deliberately constructed home. The people not only hunted, but also designed, considering factors like structural strength, warmth, and material access. We see here an architecture of ice and death, where survival became an engineering solution.
Fact 96. In ancient Greece, there existed automated theatrical productions, mechanical plays operated by water or steam. Heron of Alexandria documents a theater in a box, where figures circulate, scenery shifts, thunder sounds, and fire effects are produced. All this transpired without live actors. These contraptions presented mythological scenes, for example, the Judgment of Paris or the Return of Odysseus. Spectators witnessed the gods themselves moving on stage, manipulated by concealed gears. Art and engineering were united in a marvel-filled box, and no actor was ever tardy for a performance. Fact 97. In ancient Sparta, the kings each possessed 2 thrones, reflecting the existence of a dual kingship. This system featured 2 simultaneous rulers from distinct dynasties, the Agiads and the Eurypintids. One king led military campaigns, while the other administered the city and its internal matters. Upon the death of one king, the other's position remained secure. Succession occurred only within the deceased king's dynasty. This arrangement provided a balance of power and mitigated the risk of a power grab. However, the authority of the kings was always checked by the Gerousia, the Council of Elders and the Popular Assembly, which could veto the decisions of either king. The Spartan monarchy, therefore, was firm but not absolute, analogous to a knife held firmly in 2 hands. Fact 98. In Mesoamerica, codices, books made from lime-treated fig tree bark folded accordion style, were used. The Maya, Aztec, and Mixtec peoples used them to record calendars, histories, and myths. The Codex Borgia, a profusely illustrated manuscript detailing sacrifices, astronomical phenomena, and powerful days, is a prime example. Reading wasn't linear. It involved diagonal interpretation, considering color and symbols like a game. Scribes trained for years, and the codices were revered relics, containers of both knowledge and the divine. Colonialism resulted in the destruction of most codices, yet the survivors stand as powerful examples of visual expression. Fact number 99. The ancient Thracians of the Balkan Peninsula revered music as integral to their mystery cults and religious practices. Tradition holds that Orpheus was a native of this region. Archaeological evidence includes bronze flutes, harps, and lyres, along with wall paintings showing a musician central to a scene, surrounded by priests and warriors. The presence of musical instruments in certain tombs indicates their role as conduits to the afterlife. Music was not simply entertainment. It was a potent force believed to command animals, gods, and death itself. For the Thracians, music and ritual served as a language of the soul. In the Chauvet Cave of France, there are preserved drawings exceeding 30,000 years of age, the oldest known globally. These drawings portray horses, rhinoceroses, lions, and bison employing perspective, movement, and shading techniques. Certain scenes exhibit an almost animated effect. Animals are depicted with multiple heads, likely to illustrate running or turning. The paints used were ochre and charcoal, occasionally blended with fat. The artist's identity remains unknown. Nevertheless, it's clear that the individual working in the darkness of the cave, using a torch and pigments, was beyond a mere survivor. He was an author, director, and chronicler. Art's inception wasn't marked by frames and signatures, but by the breath within the stone.